Okay, today, reviewing linear inequalities. They sound really scary, but they're not at all. It boils down to the whole greater than, less than sign. Some kids get confused which one that is, and I will just remind you, it sort of looks a little bit like an L. Would you agree it looks more like an L than that one does, at least? Okay, and that's the less than sign. The one that looks kind of like an L is the less than sign. And some people think it matters like what numbers are on either side of it, how you say it. Nope. If there's this, and it doesn't matter what this or this are, if that's a that way sign, that is pronounced less than. Okay? So, obviously, it's put that way because the bigger one is supposed to be on the right. The alligator always eats the bigger meal was probably what they told you back in the day when you're an elementary student. I'll make it a little bit darker. The alligator first grabs its prey, spins in the water to drown its prey, and then stuffs it underneath a log in the river to let it rot for a little while because they don't like to actually eat fresh meat. They want it to rot, kind of get softer and a little bloated, and then it eats the bigger meal. That's not what you would typically hear in second grade. But anyway, there's been a spate of alligator attacks in Florida, and one in particular that that I saw. The old lady is walking on a path. Alligator comes out and grabs her, gets a hold of her arm, and tries to drag her towards the water. She's smart enough to not go in the water with the alligator. She ends up with just like a terribly broken arm and chomp marks in her hand, but she survives it. So, in the whole surviving the alligator attack thing, the main thing is don't let them get you into the water. Okay, so enough about the alligators. I'd like you to take a look at these, and hopefully you know how to say them, greater than, less than, and then what does that little bar underneath it mean? Would you please write down the 4 names for these things with your own handwriting, because it will improve the retention here. Yes, they're all at the bottom. There's a bank at the bottom of the right words for this. Write in which one you think is best. If you really want to try to snip them and drag them, you can do that, but I think you might remember it better if you write them. I'll pause for a second. Let me try that. Okay, hopefully you had them in that order. Notice it's or equal to, because can you really be greater than and equal to something at the same time? Your age, a lot of you guys are around 16-ish. Can you be greater than or equal to 16? Or, yeah, you can be greater than or equal to 16, because it's this or that, but you can't be greater than and equal to at the same time. All right. Age is an interesting one because, you know, in most situations you round up. Like if you were 1 day from your birthday or 2 days from your birthday, you know what I mean? Like you're almost 16. In most situations you'd say you were 16, but then with your age it seems like completely wrong if you're not quite there yet to say that you're 16, even though you would definitely round to 16. So there is rounding rules that are kind of interesting sometimes, but for right now let's stick to the greater thans and less thans. How could you write an inequality for this? Let's just save some time. I don't think we need to talk about this for too long. I'm going to say X, and then how do I say taller than? Take a wild guess. Which kind of symbol? Yes. Greater than. And then, do you have to be taller than at Valley Fair? Or do you just have to be taller than or equal to? You get how that could come into play with a kid? It's exactly 48 inches. You know what I mean? Okay. Do you think it would ever just be X equals 48 at Valley Fair? You have to be 48 inches tall to ride this. No, of course not. Okay, but it probably would be greater than or equal to 48. I would really doubt that if the sign said taller than 48 inches, if you were actually 48, I bet you they'd let you ride. So I bet you it's really or equal to, but the way this is written, it doesn't say that, so technically we need that. All right. At least, do you think that implies less than or equal to, or greater than and equal to? Would you please write what you think would be the right way to say this? And you can always just use X. If you want to be more creative, cookies, so maybe you say C for cookies, but choose a variable. Write in the right sign that you think works, and the 50. And then do number 4 also. And that's going to be more like an equation. Like x plus y is less than 5, that kind of thing. It's not the right answer, but something like that. I'm going to pause while you answer those two. Okay, so random person. If you haven't seen this before, the red dice is the row, and the green die, I did that around Christmas time, but I could do red and white sometimes. Anyway, red is the row, and green is the person in the row. So that's 6, red 6, that means 6th row. 4 is 4th person. That's you, L. I don't usually say the names on the video, so L, can you tell me what you had for number 2? Oh, there's 2 L's. Okay, sorry. You're not the 4th human. You're the 3rd. It's okay. It's all right, but you're probably right. Why don't you tell me what you said anyway? You are correct. That's what I was looking for. And behind you, the 4th human, is another kid with the first name L. What do you got for number 3? This is a little trickier. Ooh, hold on. 3x. Why did you put the 3 on the x? You're right, by the way. So, yeah, this is like the number of them, and this is the actual price. So yeah, you put 3 times the x because it's the price times how many you're going to get. So yeah, 3x. Keep going. Plus 4 times the y. So you must have been saying that the fresh ones were the y ones. Okay. And then what? Why are you saying less than or equal to? Don't we always want more stuff? Yeah, can't spend more than 100. So I can spend 100. So that's why it's or equal to. So very good. That's perfect. All right. So now, if I was going to go the other way and say, what could this be? T, let's say it's time. This one actually pertains to my top 20. Write a statement about the top 20 that has to do with T less than 20. Figure it out. All right, if T is time, the time needs to be less than 20 minutes. That's how much you should spend on the test, right? Time should be less than 20. But can you actually spend 20 on the test? Yeah, so you could say less than or equal to 20. How come there's only 20 minutes for the top 20, by the way? Because there's 20 minutes for 20 questions, and that matches what? A minute per question, which is why. Why do I do that? Randomly chosen number. Same as the ACT. 1 minute per question. All right, good. All right, how about this one? That is way harder. But it's similar to the other problem where you have a couple things added up, and they need to be more than or equal to 55. You could make up a story about buying some of these and some of those, and the price on these is $3 for each. Price on those is $5 for each. You know, maybe it's like buying tickets to, I don't know, some kids show, and it's $3 for the kids tickets and $5 for the adult tickets. And this is how many kids and how many adults you had. And then the total has to be greater than 55. That's a little weird. Normally you want to keep your price under a certain amount, but maybe we have to spend this $55 or we're going to lose it. It's like somebody gave you $55 that you got to spend on tickets for this little play because they want to like encourage people to come to this play. So they're like, here's some free money you can buy tickets with, but you got to spend at least 55 because this is greater than or equal to. Oftentimes in real life situations, you have so much money and you want to maximize how much you can get. So usually that'd be a less than. All right. So writing a statement. Write one statement and one inequality that aren't related. And then switch. Okay, hold on. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, so I'm back. Work with your neighbor and write a possible statement for this inequality. Well, bottom line, you could oftentimes you make it in two statements. You know what I mean? The one statement you'd say is that basically this part, that it has to stay what? Now, that feels weird because it's backwards. You know what I mean? 25 is less than or equal to x. Yeah, you can say that 25 is less than or equal to x. But usually you say it the other way around. I just want you to get used to this. You can reverse this, but of course you have to reverse the sign. So you could totally have said x has to be bigger than or equal to 25. See what I mean? 25 is less than or equal to x, or x is greater than or equal to 25. Let's make a number that works. Like, would you agree if I put 26 here that it works? As long as it still works here, then you've written it the right way. So if you reverse the statement, you got to reverse the sign. Okay. Then you could also write the other part, and that's easier because it's got the x on the left like it normally is, and you'd say x is less than or equal to 40. I bet you nobody in the room said 40 is greater than or equal to x, because people don't usually reverse things like that, but you can. Why would you reverse the first one and not the second one? Because the variable's on the right, and that's not the way people usually like it. How many of you actually did reverse it like that? You said it the other way. Okay, well, maybe you didn't know you could, and you can. This part can be written like that. Okay, moving on. How do we graph them? Well, first of all, you don't graph x is less than 5. Nobody does. You graph x is equal to 5 to start with, and then you do something from there. Okay, where is x equal to 5? I hope, first of all, you're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. So then I hope at least you would know that that line right there is important. That is x is equal to 5. So how do we graph x is less than 5 then? You start by graphing x is equal to 5, and then you think about the statement. It says less than 5. Is it the left side or is it the right side? Which side is it that we're supposed to graph? Say it. You know it. Left side. Good. So it's the left side. So then, why did I just do it slightly wrong? It's a technicality, but you guys are smart. Yes? Yes, there is an arrow to the left, and I know what you're thinking, though. You're thinking more like a number line, where you have a number line, and here's 5, and then you go like that. I know what you mean, but this is two-dimensional, so just an arrow would not be enough. You could think of these as a whole bunch of arrows if you wanted to, but there's something wrong that's not that. Can anybody else think of something that's wrong with my graph as it's currently stated? Yes? Yes! Because a solid line indicates it works at 5. 5 itself works. I'm now going through and making this a dotted line. Because why? Because 5 itself doesn't work. It says it needs to be less than 5. What do you think would make me have a solid line? If I had said x is less than or equal to. Okay, so dotted lines are this kind. Dashed, dotted, I don't know. What do you think is more common to say? Dotted line? Dashed line? Dotted? Dotted. All right. Okay, would this one want a dashed or a solid, or, I mean, dotted or dashed, the same thing, or a solid line? Which one? Solid. And the solid line is at y equals 3. Find a spot that y is 3. People get confused on this. I get that. Is that a spot where y is 3? No, that's the spot where x is 3. That's not it. Where's the spot that y is 3? There's the spot that y is 3. And then, which kind of line do I want? Yes? Oh, it says -3. Thank you. I was just spacing on the negative the whole time. It says -3. Okay, there's a spot that y is -3. And now I'm going to make the line. I hope you get that I just did something wrong. What did I do wrong? Say it. Dotted. It should be solid. All right. I know you guys, this is first hour, and it's harder to, like, concentrate because you're still waking up. But I love the participation of at least a few people saying what they think is right. And if you're wrong, it's okay. I'll tell you if you are. All right. And then it says greater than. What's your gut feel? Above or below? Above. And you're right. Now, Let's say your life depended on this answer. What is a thing you could do to check to make sure that what you answered was right? How do you check it, though? I mean, how do you check it? Yes? Yeah. So you think this area works, right? So then let's take this point right here, which is 2 comma 2. How would I put that into the original equation? If it's 2 comma 2, well, then what's the y? 2. So I'd stick a 2 in here. Is 2 really bigger than or equal to negative 3? It is. It's bigger than. So it worked. If you really, really wanted to be sure, you could check another point down here and make sure it didn't work. You know what I mean? Like that's the point, that's the spot, 2 comma negative 5. And the y of it is negative 5. So then I put a negative 5 here and make sure it doesn't work. Negative 5 is bigger than negative 3? No, it's not. Now, I know some people think, well, isn't it a bigger negative number? Think of it as temperatures. Bigger means warmer. So is negative 5 warmer than negative 3? No, it's not. Okay, so if you get confused on, I get this, people get confused on which one's bigger. You get what I'm saying? Because you could argue, well, what do you mean, like, 7's bigger than 3? So how do you decide which one's bigger? Whichever one's warmer. We know negative temperatures in Minnesota. So which one's warmer? That one's warmer. So that one's bigger. Alligator always eats the bigger one. Okay, so if you had to graph this one, how are you going to graph it? First of all, remember me saying you don't ever just graph less than right off the bat. You start by graphing what? Say it if you know it. Equal. You start by graphing equal to. And then we just shade. All right? So everybody graph y equals 2x minus 3. I'm going to pause for a second while you do that. Just nice. And do we want a solid line or a dotted? It's kind of important to know right now. If I look close, solid or dotted? Dotted, you're right. So do y equals, but do it with a dotted line because we have a less than going there. I'm going to pause and ask you to turn your iPads my way and show me where you're lying. That was not a perfect sample because only like most of you turned your iPads my way, but the people that turned it did know how to do it, which is a good sign. Slope is 2, so I'm going rise 2, run 1. There we go. And then I'm going to make my line solid or dotted. Well, got to look at this. It says less than. That means the line itself is the spot where it's equal to. We don't want that, so we want a dotted line. Okay, and then which way do I shade? As long as it's solved for y, your life is simple because it'll be intuitive. I bet you all of you know from seeing less than which way to shade. Do you think we shade below it or above it? Which one sounds like less than? Below it, and that's correct. All right. This only works, though, if it's solved for y. Do you get, if I move the 2 over to the other side by doing this, that's still an equation, but I can't use that little rule anymore. It only works when they're solved for y. They usually are. How would I do it if it was like this? Well, then I guess I would solve it for y first before I made the decision which way to shade. Another option, you can always test a point. You know it's either going to shade on this side or that side, right? So you take a point and you find out if it works. I want you to test a point for me as just to know this other way. Because what if your brain breaks down and you're like, I don't remember which way to shade these things. You're just forgetting the whole like below it or above it thing. Well, then take a point like 0, 0. Really easy point, right? I want you to put in 0, 0 and tell me what the statement reads after you put in 0, comma 0. If you put in 0, comma 0, RH, what do you get when you put in 0, comma 0? Keep going, you're doing good. 0 is, remember how to say that? That is the less than. Does it look like, it looks kind of like an L, all right? So it's less than. Negative 3, yeah, because the 0 canceled this part out. So 0 is less than negative 3. And I just want to think about that. If you get confused because they're weird numbers, think which one's warmer. Which one is warmer, 0 or 3? Or negative 3? 0 is warmer. Is 0 bigger? No, is 0 less than negative 3? No, it's not right. If your brain hurts a little bit, it's because that's not right. So that's a good thing. Why is it a good thing? Because we weren't supposed to shade on that side. Know what I mean? What if I pick a spot over here that's supposed to work, like 4, 0? That's supposed to work. If I put in 4, 0, then 0 is less than 8 minus 3, which is 5. Is 0 less than 5? Yes, and it works, and you know you did it right. Okay? Now again, I'm giving you all these ways to check. I'm a realist. Most of you guys aren't going to be checking your work. I get that. But you get when it's a test, there's only 4 questions, and if you screw one of them up, you might lower your grade by 10%. You think it might be worth checking. See my point? I don't expect you to check every single one, but you need to have a way to check. Because if you shade the wrong side, boom, it's wrong. And you don't, and usually on our tests, there's a small enough number of difficult problems that one problem would cost you 10% off your grade. Nobody likes going from a 95 to an 85 just because, shaded on the wrong side. All right. This one, remember me saying that you can't just say, oh, it's less than, so I'm going to shade under it, because it isn't what? Solved what? Solved for y. So solve it for y first. Solve it for y first. Then graph it. I'm going to pause for a second while you solve that thing for y. Hint, start by subtracting 3x. Okay, so first, minus 3x, minus 3x. Why did I put the negative 3x first? Because I know that's where I want the slope eventually. You could have actually put 10 minus 3x, and it'd have been okay too. But I think it's smarter to put the x here. Now I'm going to divide by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Y less than negative 3 halves x plus 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So then I go over here to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put a dot. And then I have to do rise negative 3 and run 2. Down 3 over 2. Down 3 over 2. And how many of you did the line like that? Ooh, a few people are not raising their hand. Is there any reason why? Be technical here. It's okay. I'm a math teacher. I can take it. Something's wrong. Nobody can see what's wrong. Yes? Yes, it's supposed to be a dotted line. And I know some of you are thinking it is a dotted line, but I was drawing solid components of the line. It should be all dotted like that. Okay, why? Because it doesn't have an or equal to sign. All right, next, I judge by this sign right here, because it's solved for y, that it says less than, and that means lower than, and therefore you should shade this way. Okay. Now, what if my life depended on it? I'd take a second and I'd check one. What's the easy one to check? 0, 0. Is 0, 0 supposed to work? Yeah, I shaded it, so it's supposed to work. So I'm going to check it back in the original, just in case I screwed up my algebra here. I'm going to check my 0, 0 here. 0, 0. And I get 0 is less than 10. Is that a true statement? Yeah, looks like I shaded on the correct side. All right, that won't tell me if my line's off, but it'll tell me if my shading was off. Yes? You don't have to do it in the original, but let's say, okay, but will it be true is the question. So, okay, let's stick in 0, 0. 0 is less than 0 plus 5. So 0 is still less than 5. It still works. You're right, it's a different statement, but it's still a true statement. All right, so you check it in either one, but here's the risk. I know the original isn't screwed up because that's what they gave me. That could be screwed up because I could have done something wrong in the solving process. All right, last thought. What would make the sign switch? You guys remember that deal? Something makes the sign switch. Divide by or multiply by a negative. So if it's like this, don't forget if you're solving this puppy, and when you divide by negative 2, it makes the sign switch. Okay, it went from a greater than to a, looks like an L, so it's a less than. Okay, so if you divide by a negative, which happens a fair amount, or multiply by a negative, that would be like this. A divided by negative 3 is greater than 7. How would I solve this? Times by negative 3 times by negative 3. If you times by a negative, it also makes the sign switch. A is less than negative 21. Okay? Don't forget that little caveat. All right, cool. That's all we have for today. It's basically the same stuff. Just remember to solve for what first? Solve for y. If you really don't want to solve for y, you can actually find this by an xy chart. I told you before, those are handy. And you could do this with an xy chart. Remember, you'd want to start it with equal to. And I'm not going to make you do that, but I'm just saying, if you really don't want to solve for y, then you should make an xy chart, find the dots, say it goes like do, and then you can figure out which way to shade. But it's complicated in so many more ways because now you can't trust which way to shade it either. Now you got to test some point and see which way to shade it. I think it's a lot easier. Just solve for y. All right. So your homework is a worksheet this time, and it's got an answer key, and the answer key is posted. So there's no reason why you can't get them all right. Just to clarify for the new kids, do I expect you to copy the answers off the answer sheet? Well, kind of I do, kind of. Except you shouldn't be copying them. You should do the worksheet yourself. You should check it. And if there's something wrong, it's totally okay to fix it. Because if I have two kids and one is going to check and one's not, the kid who checks learns more. He knows what he screwed up on. I think it's great to check them. And it's okay to change them then when you realize you screwed up. You just have to look back at the work and figure out why yours is wrong. If you just wholesale copy over from the key, of course, you're not going to learn anything. So no teacher is ever going to want you to do that. Okay. So for your homework, I do often cut off a problem or two to keep it reasonable, because I feel like if I'm going to actually grade this and I'm going to actually put it in the grade book, not every day, but often, then I need to keep the assignments reasonably sized. So I'm going to pause for a second. We'll pull that. Okay, so here's the worksheet. And I know sometimes kids will have started the worksheet. I really don't want you to start until I have ended the lesson, but I know sometimes there's like a long gap where other kids are working on a problem you're already done with. And if you want to start, go ahead. But what you do risk is that I'm going to exclude one of the problems that you did. So like if I said, for instance, I don't need you to do number 2, then, well, you already did it and you wasted your time. So sometimes it's worth waiting. It's up to you, though. All right, for today, I'll be nice and I'll leave in problems 1, 2, and 3 because that's how you would probably started. I think you should also do number 4. There's some other ones we can skip down here, though. There's 2 of these. I don't think you need to do both of them. You can cross this off. Again, do you have to not do it? No. If you want to practice, great. Do it. It's just optional. And down here, again, there's a whole lot of these word problems. I don't think we need to do quite that many. So I'm going to cross off 7 lucky 7 and number 10. It's not like they're bad problems. They're good problems, but may not need that many. So I'll be okay with you do 8 and 9. And then let's also skip problem 12. Okay? Those are the ones you can skip. Now get the rest of them done. Now for those of you that aren't used to this new system because you got a new teacher now, what we're going to do probably tomorrow to grade it is have somebody else take over your iPad. We'll have everybody get up and move like the spot behind them or spot in front of them. And they will be grading it on your iPad with a different color pen and giving you a score. And then after that, we may drop it in the Dropbox. So don't Dropbox it tonight. Wait till it's been graded tomorrow in class. Okay, and after it's been graded, then I'll say, okay, everybody Dropbox it now. Okay, and then it's Dropbox with your score on it. Make sense? So get your homework done tonight. Skip the ones I said to skip. And be prepared to grade it tomorrow. And that's all I got for you for today.